My name is Margaret Ann Windsor, and I'm putting this up. The name I have to use is Peggy Ann Dempsey. I married a Childers. I was kidnapped in 41, and part of the person that helped kidnap me was JFK, who was, his dad was appointed ambassador to England in 1936 till they kicked him out in 46. Excuse me for moving this around. I have a rough time even living or breathing, by the way. Um, So anyway, the Illuminati took down my father, Edward VIII, and I'm going to show his picture because I'm coming to something else here I haven't put up before. This is my dad, Edward VIII. This is 1939, the year I was born, and my own uncle had become illegal monarch in 37, the same year that my dad is still quoted as marrying Wallace Warfield Simpson. A double actually did, an imposter. There were several. And this is my uncle with Roosevelt, who installed Kennedy ambassador, planning my kidnapping because my father was married to Claudia Ruth O'Keeffe. She was actually queen in 36, and that's how much power these people have. The Rockefellers, Rothschilds, Bilderbergers, they control your banking. Roosevelt, they're Jews. Am I allowed to say that? If you ever see what they've done to me and are still doing, but this is, the Americans have done it too. Part of my own people, Sir Winston Churchill was a part of it. He's friends of Roosevelt, even had an apartment within rooms within the White House. He helped take down my father, Archbishop Cosmos Lang. They all knew my father was married to my mom, sister to artist Georgia O'Keeffe, born in Madison, Wisconsin, Sun Prairie. And my dad would not go along and take orders from the Illuminati, so they took him down with character assassination. He had an addendum that was legal, that he meant to come back. Well, he was 45 and my mom 40, so they didn't think he'd have a child, an heir. I was born in 39, and Uncle Illegal George VI, the traitor who the Illuminati put in when they took my father out and kidnapped me, is here with Roosevelt in 39 planning my kidnapping. Here's Elizabeth, who's illegal, and she knows all about this. She was 15 when I was kidnapped. She knows it all. She's a money hungry, and I could call her that, but somebody would get mad at me after all I've been through because of them. This is Wallace and one of the imposters. There were more. They took my father out with character assassination. Now, I think I've said what I could there. I wanted to put this up. Did a book before I found out about my kidnapping, and I did it in 1976. I started it, and I was moved from Treetop to Moonraker Apartments in Marietta, off Powers Ferry, next to the Journey Inn. In fact, the Penthouse magazine had owned it, and then bought out by the Mormon Church out of Utah, which is associated with genealogy too. But anyway, I really wanted to get to this. Mr. Flint was shot in Lawrenceville March the 6th of 78 while I was doing the book. And I had a letter from the FBI, moved up to Laurelwood on Bentley Drive, not even a mile up from Moonraker, on May the 8th of 79. Had a letter from the FBI, June the 23rd of 79. And by the way, that's my father's birthday, June the 23rd. Ongoing investigation, national security involved. I was almost killed April Fool Day of 80. And later, it was a miracle of all sorts that I lived, but everything was destroyed. And I'll just leave it there. Everything illegal done to me. I want to mention this. I work for the district attorney, and I don't want to get too much here because I wanted to get to this other before my time goes off on here. I was taken illegally across the state line and by all means should have died. I finally got a report of the lab, which my ex-husband or husband got for me. They wouldn't give it to me. You would know why if this is ever shown. Well, he Xeroxed it. Well, he didn't Xerox it. He went in and pulled the file, brought it out and give it to me where they'd tried to kill me. It showed it there. In fact, the test was finally supposed to have been done. This happened to me the night, April Fool Day of 80. And I went to the emergency room and it was stacked against me. The test's never done. I was illegally taken. This is the day before Easter, to Huntsville. And I asked for the test to be done, begged. Everything was done wrong. It's hideous. And the test, when it was done on Wednesday, the following Wednesday after I'd gone on the April Fool Day the 1st. Now fast forward to Sunday is Easter on the 6th. Now the next Wednesday would be what? 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th. How many days after this was done to me, the test was finally done, and he came back with enough to kill me at the time it was taken, that many days later. So anyway, I worked for the district attorney, background check, Fred Simpson, Madison County DA, Huntsville, Alabama. Worked for him. That's when John Lennon was killed. Mark David Chapman shot him, program shooter. Now I want to get into this. Mr. Flint flew me out there. I was in the campaign, and I'm leaving all the hell out here. I've tried to put it up, and believe me, it's been hell for my children, me, my parents that lost me, and my father was taken down, and history has him the biggest crook in the world. When he was character assassination, he did the truth. He wouldn't take orders from the Illuminati, the Rockefellers and Rothschilds, who helped kidnap me then after taking him down. His own brother, George the illegal 6, Elizabeth's lineage is a bunch of crooks and illegal. And Sir Winston Churchill helped in my kidnapping and the cover-up of burning the Windsor files about my mother being married to my father, Claudia Ruth O'Keefe, school teacher, very beautiful lady. Georgia O'Keefe, the artist's sister. That's my mom, and my father was really married to her. There was never any Wallace Simpson, except a made-up spy for the United States and married a double. There's many doubles that did the bad behavior. Now, I wanted to get to this, though. I was doing the book prior to finding out about my kidnapping and my real name. I was doing the book about mind control, where people call it Manchurian Candidate, when in fact the person programmed is a victim just like anybody else. The very name makes them seem at odds, like they're the criminal. Like Virginia Tech, where 32 were shot, and he was a student from South Korea, and he was programmed to shoot himself then, commit suicide. It's really suicide murder by mind control. And also the Parkland in Florida, and I could go on, the Aurora, Colorado. They were done in patterns, the ones I've spoken of. And Scott and Mark, the twins astronauts, Kelly. Mark Kelly was married to Congressman Gabby Gifford, and the shootings that took place at her campaign there in Tucson, Arizona. And they're for gun control. Gun control, it's mind control that's done it. Now, I want to get back to Mr. Flynn. I was flown out there in the campaign, and this was to replace U.S. Congressman Larry McDonald, who I'd written about, worked at Piedmont Hospital, where Warren and Rosina Matthews were pathologists, and they were gunned down in Terrell Mill Estates in Cobb County. I wrote about them. They worked for Piedmont, where Larry McDonald was a urologist, and then he was U.S. Congressman. And they knew about mind control murders, the Tesla files, just like that I was writing about. They were gunned down. I later, during the campaign to replace Larry McDonald, before flying out to Flint's in '83, I worked for a doctor, Ruth. I can't think of her last name now. She was a gynecologist. I worked for her briefly through a temp agency, and she said to me that she was. So this wasn't random that I was sent to her office to work. She said, "We hope you win." She said she had been a roommate with Rosina Matthews in college, and in essence, she supported me and knew what I was talking about. She said, "I hope you win." I didn't, but I wanted to get to this. Mr. Flint had flown me out there, and excuse this morning, I'm in pretty bad health. He flew me out, but this is in April '84 after he furnished me a car. And by the way, when I left his home, I was in Bel Air at the time. I was pushing him around in a wheelchair, and he was saying, "Can't find a room, everything's full." He'd just flown me out there. Okay, just prior to that, a couple of weeks prior, he'd flown me out there and took me right to the lily pad room and all this. When I left, what's wrong with this picture? Okay, when I left his home, he and a producer were sitting there as I went out the door, and somebody said, "Aren't you going to tell Mr. Flint goodbye?" And he didn't walk up. He's in the wheelchair, and the producer, he introduced him. So you can make of it what you want to. This is this many years later, and I don't know that anything. I'll die a pauper, and my name taken from me, my children, the hideous crimes stacked on top of each other. So anyway, no room in the inn, and this is where I've lived. I've been made a pauper and no place to live, and I have an immune disorder which has been used to run me. I'm allergic to chemicals when I'm around toxic fumes in a closed environment, which has been deliberate, believe me. It's a war against me personally here in this country. I'm sitting here now in such ill health from it, nobody will touch it. Anyway, I wanted to get to this. I put all this up before. This is what I want to say. Mr. Flint says here in this endorsement in '84, by the way, I worked for Ron Ziegler of the Watergate, and you need to get into the truth about the Watergate. I worked for him when I was in D.C. when this was sent to me. He's the good guy. I was through a temp, the Kensington. Oh God, I'm forgetting the name of it in Maryland. Anyway, I was living in Falls Church, and I worked for Ron Ziegler a few days in his home office there. And you get into, he was the good guy, and Henry Kissinger was the one, if you want to read or the videos, that I was laid out. That's on the Watergate tapes that they subpoenaed, and your 18.5-minute gap happened. You should see who was on the other end when they're trying to kill me, standing there over me with me paralyzed, but I knew what, with Victor Gonzalez, doctor still practicing, I think, in Atlanta, Georgia. My God in heaven. It's so hideous. Now then, okay, I work for Ron Ziegler, but anyway, here is Mr. Flint, and this is the discrepancy that I want to show you. He says here, Peggy Childers knows how corrupt our political system is, especially those rotten assholes in Georgia who were responsible for my shooting March the 6th, the likes of Al Burroughs, Larry McDonald. He was the congressman doctor I wrote about. Then the plane went down, the KAL, and he was supposed to be on it, and President Nixon was taken off because they knew it was going down. And he says I was defeated in '83 in the congressional because I was an unknown 20-1. I came in 7th, I think. Anyway, that's enough. You get the point. He says Larry McDonald, that they're responsible for his shooting. Now, I want to get to this. I was looking up because this involves a lot more than that. I bet I don't get it up. Anyway, I'll try. Martin Luther King, civil rights leader. Let me get to that first. He partnered with, and I had that picture here, but I can't find it this morning. I'm too tired. With John F. Kennedy, who helped in my kidnapping. He and the Illuminati and his father, Joe Kennedy, was appointed ambassador that I've just shown you. And they brought me to Moulton, Alabama. But he partnered. They were trying to take down the British government, British Empire. Made us fight against ourselves. So my father wouldn't go along with it. They took him out, kidnapped me. Then they put his own brother in, who's illegal. His brother helped in my kidnapping and his takedown too. Illegal George VI. And yes, Elizabeth knows it. And she's thwarted any effort to tell the truth about who I am, the legal monarch. Anyway, Martin Luther King partnered with John F. Kennedy. Now then, the point was to take down the British Empire. Now then, Martin Luther King is shot. What day was he shot? April the 4th, 1968. Odd thing here, when I tried to return the car and left D.C. to go out to Larry Flynts and return the car then, which they wouldn't take back then. I didn't get to talk to them. They just wouldn't take the car back. I had no money. I had his car for a year. It was leased, no money. But it was odd when I look back because I didn't know what I know now. I stopped because it was a cheap motel at the Lorraine in Memphis. And I was put, I think, I was on the balcony. I may have been put in the same room, I'm not sure, as where Martin Luther King was shot. On April 4th, 1968. Okay, he was shot by James Earl Ray. No, that's the person that shot Larry Flint. Okay, I'm confused here. Who shot Martin Luther King? Who shot? Oh, God, I had it on another piece of paper. Well, no, I had it here. James Earl Ray shot Martin Luther King. He was supposed to. And Reverend Andrew Young, who became ambassador because he was made ambassador by Jimmy Carter, who I thought was good. The UN is the offshoot of taking down my father and kidnapping me because there's illegal treaties my dad wouldn't sign, and that allowed the United States to invade the UK and thus the United Nations and a lot of treaties that are illegal. Your UN is your front for, and it's located right there in New York with Rockefeller Plaza and control of your media and Rockefeller, the Illuminati headquarters. Okay, let's go to James Earl Ray. He died 1998, treated for liver disease and failure. Here's the man that shot Larry Flint, and this is what I'm getting to also. I'm just going to have to stop on the other because this is one of the points I wanted to make. Remember, Mr. Flint just said Larry McDonald in this endorsement was part of shooting him. And Larry McDonald was part of having me killed on April Fool Day of 80. Believe me, he was, because I was doing the book. And it was a case about him and the Center for Disease Control, the killing of, God, I'm sitting here forgetting her name right now. I've just put it up along with the other doctors, Chelton, Dr. Beecham, Paul Beecham. It was a number that got into the trying to kill me then, and then you go back to the 18-minute gaps, and I'm sounding garbled trying to put it together, so I'm just going to stop. I'm going